As I mentioned during markup, Nepal was hit with a devastating 7.8 magnitude earthquake on April 25th, followed by another 7.3 magnitude earthquake on May 12th, claiming the lives of over 8,000 people and leaving millions affected and at risk. Some have argued that the disaster in Nepal was partially mitigated by advanced preparation of USAID and others through its 60-year presence in Nepal, engaging in disaster risk reduction. Today, we will discuss the U.S. government efforts to alleviate the circumstances of disaster in Nepal. We expect our distinguished witnesses to highlight successful, effective pre-planning efforts, but I also expect an honest assessment of the long-term implications and challenges for rebuilding and protecting vulnerable communities. I'd also like to hear about what we can do to make our foreign aid efforts more efficient. The United States has committed nearly $47 million for response and recovery efforts in Nepal. We're working with a dozen other nations in cooperation with the United Nations, as well as thousands of foreign personnel on the ground in Nepal assisting with our relief projects. Our efforts have been particularly concentrated on search and rescue, shelter, water, and sanitation, but we've been involved in nearly every aspect of the response to some degree. As far as USAID is concerned, they deployed a disaster assistance response, or DART, team the day of the event, sending over 120 people, search and rescue dogs to Nepal aboard military aircraft within hours. The team's urban search and rescue personnel, some based in nearby Fairfax, Virginia, as was referenced, spent weeks working miracles, pulling survivals out of the rubble in Kathmandu and elsewhere, while other DART personnel investigated the safety of damaged structures. I look forward to hearing more about their heroic activities and how preparations such as the DART's readiness and pre-stage supplies helped in Nepal. The State Department helped to connect thousands of American citizens with their loved ones in Nepal during the earthquake. I've also heard that the U.S. bilateral connections are playing an important role in the crisis response. Our partner nations in the region are leveraging U.S. capabilities to help shoulder more of the burden. I'd like Assistant Secretary Biswal to inform the committee on whether this may be an indication that future disaster responses in the region might be less reliant on U.S. agencies. The Department of Defense supported these efforts by providing airlift and other support at USAID's request through DOD, though DOD does not take the lead in comprehensive disaster support such as this. Without their support, such efforts would be impossible. Our military is also our country's most significant strategic presence in Asia, and we rely so heavily on their capabilities, both to support our existing partners and to develop new ones through military cooperation. I look forward to hearing about the military's engagement during the crisis and how their support of operations in Nepal will inform their strategies in the future. Enduring needs and increased needs, risks for Nepal. Despite these incredible efforts for our country and many others, the crisis is far from over in Nepal. The coming months and years will be the true test of our response capabilities. Monsoon season is fast approaching. Large numbers of homeless people exposed to the elements during this time would be a dire enough problem in and of itself. The earthquakes have also changed the water tables in Nepal, reducing water quality, creating large amounts of displaced earth, and increasing the risk of flooding. Nepal faces enormous water and sanitation dangers. Food shortages are also a major concern. I understand the crisis hit just before the planting season and that there were efforts to help farmers get their crops in the ground. Additionally, I'm concerned by reports that U.S. food assistance, including food that has been pre-positioned in Sri Lanka in order to reduce delivery times, will take up to 45 days to arrive in Nepal. I'd appreciate a report on this delay and any idea of Nepal's longer-term food outlook. These and other challenges will disproportionately affect the vulnerable populations among Nepal's displaced peoples, including women and children. Given a history of trafficking in persons issues in Nepal, support of these vulnerable populations will be of the utmost importance, and I'd like our administration witnesses to discuss how we're working to ensure their safety. As we consider these horrific, enduring challenges, however, we should not forget that the response to the Nepal crisis highlighted just how effective some of our disaster response mechanisms really are and reduced some of the earthquake's devastating impact. I've heard that safer building techniques meant that we suffered 0 U.S. Embassy or local personnel fatalities, and that pre-staged supplies in Nepal are helping us get people shelter faster. It's also very exciting to hear that some of our partner nations are using U.S.-built capabilities to contribute to that response. I'm interested to hear our witnesses' insight on what this means regarding the efficacy of these investments in the region, whether U.S. capacity building in the region is increasing regional disaster response effectiveness, and how these type of investments can reduce the cost of disaster response operations for the United States in the long term. It's under extremely unfortunate circumstances that we discuss these efforts, but this is precisely what we have many of these organizations for. Discussing the challenges we face in the region is necessary to prepare for future potential disasters and working toward minimizing the loss of life, as well as depleting limited resources associated with relief efforts. I give my sincere thanks to our colleagues and our witnesses for joining us in this conversation today, and I yield to the ranking member, Mr. Connolly.